Good afternoon and welcome to Know Your Rights and Responsibilities, Anti-Discrimination Protection at All Levels of Government. My name is Sufyan Sohel and I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Cook County Commission on Human Rights. And I also serve as Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel at Resilience Force. Our presentation today brings together representatives from the Chicago Commission on Human Relations, the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, and the Illinois Department of Human Rights to discuss human rights protections at all levels of government and where and how individuals can file complaints. Our speakers today include Kristen Lee, the Director of Compliance for Fair Housing Adjudication Division with the City of Chicago's Commission on Human Relations, Jennifer King, the Interim Director of the Department of Human Rights and Ethics, which includes the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, and Michael Vernon, Staff Attorney with the Illinois Department of Human Rights. It is now my pleasure to introduce Michael, who will proceed with agency introductions. Michael?
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Michael Vernon. I'm a staff attorney at the Illinois Department of Human Rights, where I focus on housing matters, but also all potential violations of the Illinois Human Rights Act.
Thank you. Kristen?
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Sohel. This is Kristen Lee. I'm the Director of Compliance for Fair Housing for the Chicago Commission on Human Relations.
Thank you. And Jennifer?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Jennifer King. I'm the Interim Executive Director for Cook County's Commission on Human Rights, where we enforce Cook County's human rights ordinance as well as other worker protection laws. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing a bit about each of your agencies. Our next section will cover what a jurisdiction is, how our jurisdictions interact, and highlight some similarities and differences amongst our jurisdictions. I will now pass it to Kristen to share this portion, but please give us a moment. We're just going to try to catch up our slides to where we are in the presentation. And Kristen.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Sohel. Yes, so today's presentation is going to give you an overview of 3 different enforcement agencies at different levels of government. We want to explain to you what jurisdiction means. This will help you understand where you can file your discrimination complaint, or on the other side, whether a complaint that was filed against you was properly filed in the venue where it was filed. So when deciding where to file a complaint, you want to look at the jurisdiction of each agency to determine whether or not its law applies to your issue. Jurisdiction is the official power to make a legal decision or judgment. For each agency has various factors that we look at: the location of the incident, the timing of the incident, the protected areas, additionally the protected classes at issue. It's important to note that one incident could possibly violate multiple laws, and additionally, more than one agency may have jurisdiction over a matter. Each agency has its independent authority to apply and enforce their own laws. So next, we're going to break down each of those 4 factors that we discussed by agency. So in terms of that first factor, the location of the incident, in order to file with the Illinois Department of Human Rights, the incident would need to happen within the state of Illinois. To file with the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, the incident would need to happen in Cook County. For my agency, the Chicago Commission on Human Relations, which enforces the Chicago Human Rights Ordinances and Fair Housing Ordinance, the incident would need to take place in the city of Chicago. You might be thinking to yourself, wait, but the city of Chicago is located in Cook County. It's also located in the state of Illinois. So in terms of the city and the county, if an incident happens within the city, the county will defer their investigation to the Chicago Commission on Human Relations. The next factor is timing. The timing, when did the incident take place? Within each agency, there may be some nuances with regard to the timing based on the type of complaint you're looking to file. So at the Illinois Department of Human Rights, known as IDHR, for a housing complaint, you have 1 year from the date of the incident to file the complaint. But for the other charges, you have 300 days to file the complaint. For the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, CCCHR, you have 180 days to file your complaint unless it's a workers' protection, and then you'll have up to 3 years for that. For the Chicago Commission on Human Relations, CCHR, you'll have 365 days from the date of the incident to file the complaint. For each of the agencies, there's protected areas. So what kind of discrimination complaint can you file at these agencies? You may file housing discrimination, employment discrimination, public accommodation, as well as including higher education and credit cases with all agencies. Next, we'll be talking about the protected classes. Each law enforced by each agency covers some of the same protected classes and some different protected classes. We'd like to break those down for you a little bit in our next slides. Thank you.
Kristen, that was so helpful. I know as a civil rights practitioner, it was always really confusing of where to send people facing some of these issues, which department to send them to for relief and for justice. So I appreciate you walking us through jurisdiction. The next two sections are going to describe the similarities and differences in protections at each level of government. And we have Michael here to walk us through those. Michael?
Thank you very much. All of the agencies conduct outreach and provide training on a variety of groups. For a variety of groups. All of the agencies conduct neutral and fair investigations of charges of discrimination in the areas of real estate transactions and housing matters, public accommodations, employment, financial credit, and credit transactions. Some of the commonly protected classes that all of our agencies cover include age, and that are individuals 40 years and over, ancestry, color, conviction record in an employment setting, mental and physical disabilities, gender identity, marital status, military discharge status, national origin, race, religion, sex, pregnancy, sexual harassment, sexual orientation, source of income, and retaliation. There are also unique protections that each of the individual agencies cover.
Thank you, Michael. So I'll go over some of the unique protections. As Michael just mentioned, there are some protections that are covered by all three agencies, but there are particular ones that an individual agency will cover, or maybe two of the agencies cover that are not covered by the other. So for instance, I'll start with Cook County. We cover housing status, which relates to whether you have residents in a public or private housing, whether you have or do not have fixed housing. Also your criminal history. So if you have a criminal history, regardless of whether you are filing or the alleged incident occurred within the city of Chicago or otherwise, you would file with Cook County. And then also ethnicity and caste. And then there are two unique protections that are covered by Chicago and Cook County. And those include bodily autonomy and parental status. So bodily autonomy relates to one's control over their own reproductive decisions, as well as their over their reproductive, and that may include reproductive health care or gender affirming care. And then second is parental status, which relates to whether an individual resides or does not reside with their dependents or children. And so for these unique protections that are covered by Cook County and Chicago. If the conduct has occurred in the city of Chicago or Cook County, you could file with either agency, but I'll note that if the conduct, like Kristen mentioned earlier, happened within the city of Chicago and you're filing because you feel like you've experienced discrimination based on bodily autonomy or parental status, you would file within the city of Chicago. And then any other incidents that occurred outside of the city, but in Cook County, you would file with us. And I'm going to turn it to Kristen to discuss the unique protections offered by Chicago.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Yes, I also want to reinforce that right now we're talking about the unique protections, but each of these three agencies cover all of those protected classes on the earlier slide that were listed, of which there are many. Here, unique to Chicago would be retaliation under the Hotel Workers Ordinance. Remember, the Chicago ordinances cover general retaliation, meaning retaliation for having complained about discrimination. So if you were retaliated against for complaining about discrimination at your job, in your housing, in a public accommodation, you could file a complaint because you were retaliated against. But here we have a unique protection in addition to the general retaliation for complaining about discrimination. Here we have retaliation under the Hotel Workers Ordinance. The Hotel Workers Ordinance is separate, is another part of the ordinance which protects hotel workers from sexual harassment and assault in their employment as a hotel worker. It has some unique protections, such as requiring that they have a protective buzzer, and so that part of the city's ordinance is enforced by BACP, Business Affairs and Consumer Protections. But if someone is retaliated against for asserting their rights under that ordinance, then they can file a retaliation claim with the City of Chicago's Commission on Human Relations. Additionally, another protected class that is unique to Chicago is credit history in employment. So credit history is defined as the record of an individual's past borrowing and repaying. This includes information about late payments and bankruptcy. The next protected class I want to tell you about, Chicago shares with the Illinois Department of Human Rights, IDHR. That protected class is military status. So military status is means being on active duty in or any reserve component of any branch of the armed forces, federal or state. It also means being a veteran of any branch of the armed forces or the act of discharge from any such branch of the armed forces and the reasons for the discharge. So next, I will pass it on to Michael with IDHR.
Thank you very much. Unique to the Illinois Department of Human Rights, unique to the Illinois Department of Human Rights is the following groups. Immigration status, and that is immigration status as it applies to employment, public accommodation, financial credit, and beginning the first of next year, housing. Order of protection status, citizenship status in employment settings, work authorization status in employment settings, language in employment status, in an employment setting, arrest record in employment setting and in the housing setting, familial status in the housing setting, and sexual harassment in the education setting.
Thank you all so much. That was extremely helpful. As is always true, please do feel free to reach out to any of these agencies with any more specific questions regarding the protections that were just discussed and where those protections may apply. We are now going to discuss the complaint or charge filing process. I want to pass it back to Michael to discuss filing charges with IDHR.
Thank you very much. First, it's important to know that filing a charge is absolutely free, and you can file your own complaint, or you can have an attorney that you retain prepare a complaint on your behalf. The agency can provide language access and ASL interpretation services to assist with the filing process and throughout the investigation. All of the agencies can also give referral to supporting community organizations. With the Illinois Department of Human Rights, when it can receive a charge directly from the public, as well as from the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. When you file a complaint, the non-housing charges must be filed within 300 calendar days after the date of the alleged civil rights violation. Housing complaints must be filed within 365 days, 1 calendar year, after the date of the alleged civil rights violation. How do you file? Charges can be initiated by contacting the Illinois Department of Human Rights via email, telephone, in writing, or in person. A human rights intake investigator will interview the complainant with the complaint to gather all of the necessary information for filing a charge. Again, you are not required to speak English or have an attorney represent you at this time or at any time.
Thank you, Michael. I'll note that Cook County's Commission on Human Rights is similar to Illinois Department of Human Rights in that it is free to file a complaint. You can do so with or without an attorney. Our investigators and other staff will also connect you to resources that may provide legal assistance in helping you to complete the complaint form or to help you throughout the investigation process. Complaints should be filed with us within 180 days. It is for any alleged violations of our human rights ordinance. In the case that you're filing with us, alleging a violation of our minimum wage ordinance or earned sick leave, you have 3 years from the date of the alleged violation to file with us. If you were to file with one of the other agencies like Illinois Department of Human Rights or the Cook County Commission on Human Rights or the Chicago Commission on Human Rights, and you should actually file with us, you would receive a referral from one of those agencies, but it would not automatically kind of transfer to us. So we would have to complete another complaint form at this time, but we have staff that can help facilitate that process and hopefully expedite it as much as possible. There's no requirement that you submit any other form or participate in any other intake process before filing the complaint. At the time your complaint is filed, we would, work to review it to ensure that it includes some of the required information, which would include a statement of facts about the allegation, like what actually occurred, what was the date, or the dates if it was ongoing, including that in there, the city, of course, where it happened, and then also basis of the discrimination. So we talked about protected classes, some of like race, age, criminal history, that should be noted on your complaint form and even in those facts that you're alleging on the form when you file with us. It also must include the signature of the complainant, or if you have an attorney filing on your behalf, their signature can be on the complaint form instead of yours. And I'll note that the ways to file with us currently include sending a complaint form in email. You can come stop by our office in person. You can mail a complaint, and then we will also be launching an online system where you can file your complaint via a link that will be posted on our website. And I'll turn it over to Kristen to discuss the complaint filing process in the city.
Hi, thanks so much, Jennifer. Yes, so if you are discriminated against in the city of Chicago in your housing, in your employment, or in an area of public accommodation, please do give us a call. We encourage parties to call our intake line and to just discuss the matter with our investigators. That line is staffed Monday through Friday. It's a line dedicated just to intake calls. And so that investigator will ask you a couple of questions just to determine if our office has jurisdiction over the incident. We talked about jurisdiction at the beginning of this presentation. And so they'll just ask you those basic questions. If it turns out we don't have jurisdiction, we're going to go ahead and refer you to one of the other agencies that may. We can also make referrals to legal aid agencies if you need legal advice. But assuming you do have, you established during that call that you do have, that the City Commission on Human Relations does have jurisdiction over your complaint, there are many ways for you to go about filing the complaint. You can do so online, in person, via email, by mail, or by fax. The two methods that we recommend from that list would be, number one, to come in person to the commission's offices. We're located at 740 North Sedgwick, Suite 400 in Chicago, Illinois. You can come Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 and 3 p.m. The reason we recommend coming in person is that when you come in person, you meet face to face with an investigator who has a lot of experience drafting these complaints and knows what vital information can help start the process on a good footing. You would meet with them, tell them what happened. They would assist you with preparing the complaint, and you would sign it and it would be filed. In the alternative, if we're also super excited about our online complaint filing system. We've had it in place a little over a year now, but we recently made some improvements to it. And we think it works, it's a lot more user-friendly now. So I just put a little screen graphic here to the right of the screen where it says to file online. And that's a screen grab of what the commission's website looks like. So you'll see I've circled in yellow, it says how to file a complaint. If you click on that button, how to file a complaint, you're going to come to some instructions that just walk you through what's required in the complaint. And then you'll scroll down and you'll see in red the words to file online. And you'll click there and it'll bring you to our DocuSign system where you can file your complaint online. So once a complaint is accepted, then the commission conducts an investigation. We can also mediate cases during the investigation stage. If there's a finding of substantial evidence, we will conduct a settlement conference and a hearing. If at the conclusion of a hearing, the Board of Commissioners determines that the ordinance was violated, the commission has the power to award monetary and injunctive relief to the complainant, the person who filed the complaint, and that's to be paid for by the respondent, the person you filed the complaint against. Additionally, the commission has the power to fine a respondent if there's a finding of a violation and to report them to any applicable professional boards. Just in general, I just really want to encourage you. I think, in meeting with the other organizations in preparation for this presentation, I know everyone's here to be of assistance to our constituents. And if a complaint is filed against you and you have questions about the process, you can also call our intake line, and we are happy to explain the process to you. You will receive very informative materials in the mail walking you through the steps of responding. And we will conduct a neutral investigation. We don't represent either side. So we look forward to being of service to you. Thanks so much for checking in today, or for participating today.
Kristen, Jennifer, Michael, thank you so much for all of that invaluable information. I know those of you watching us today probably have so many different questions, and we want to make sure that we have and share the information for each of the respective departments with you today. And it's also on their websites. We have the Illinois Department of Human Rights, the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, and the Chicago Commission on Human Relations. So please give them calls. Please feel free to visit their websites. There's a lot of information out there, and we just want to make sure that if you do need, you have the support that you need to navigate into your injustice. So now we're going to just ask, I invite the speakers to please join me, and we're going to just ask a couple of questions that I invite you all to please answer as you see fit. One question we're often asked is, what are some potential resolutions if someone files a complaint with any of your agencies? And I'll start with Jennifer, please.
I'm happy to take that first. So I think Kristen kind of mentioned this too. With an individual files a complaint with us, and we find that there is evidence that a violation of our human rights ordinance or any of our worker protection laws did occur, the commission may order some sort of action. They may also order financial penalties as well, and some damages. So there are fines that are laid out within our ordinance, and then there are also some additional damages that could be awarded in addition to that. And for example, I'll say, like, if someone files, and the easiest thing that I can think of is against in our minimum wage ordinance. I did not receive the minimum wage as required under the law. The commission can order, okay, they didn't receive their minimum wage. There's evidence supporting this. the pay that they did not receive should be provided back to them. So that's just some of the ways that we may do it, or we might require a respondent to take training also in order to ensure that they're in compliance with our ordinances going forward.
Thank you, Michael or Kristen. Anything to add?
I'd also just mention that there are damages that can be awarded once there's found to be the violation. But there's also, if parties want to try to work to resolve the case via settlement with each other, it really just depends on the negotiations between the parties. We often see settlements that will compensate the complainant for their out-of-pocket damages. It could also include emotional distress damages. And as Jennifer referenced, perhaps training, for example, fair housing training, if it was a housing discrimination case.
Michael, anything additional?
The department's attempt for resolution is very similar to our sister agencies, where if there is a finding of substantial evidence of a civil rights violation, the question becomes, is it possible to make the complainant whole? Is there a process where training may be suggested to try to prevent further discriminatory acts in the future? And similarly, we also engage in both conciliation and mediation. And if that fails, of course, there's filing a charge with the Illinois Human Rights Commission.
Thank you so much. So much information was presented today, and I know you all touched upon this a little bit, but in my experience, a lot of communities living in our state, in our city, in our county, they don't even know where to start when they're dealing with some of these issues. They're afraid to ask. They come from, especially a lot of, I see new immigrants who are just told to keep their head down, and some of the hate and discrimination they may face is just part of the American experience that they're supposed to deal with. So for those who are just unsure, and there's a lot of distrust with government agencies. So what would be your advice for an individual facing any one of those long list of issues that you all touched upon to be their first start? Like, where should they start? Is there one of your agencies that they should reach out to first? Is there maybe another nonprofit agency they should reach out to? If they have a valid complaint, or they don't know if they have a valid complaint, just like what should be the first step that they take?
Sure, I can handle that one. I would say, from the commission's perspective, to go ahead and call our intake line. You mentioned about different languages. We are able to provide translation services in countless languages using Language Line via the telephone. Additionally, we can provide translation services in person as well. So definitely call the intake line, and then we can help you figure out if you're in the right place to file your complaint with us. Additionally, we can make recommendations in terms of getting support to perhaps have someone represent you in the proceedings here. You're not required to have an attorney represent you. We pride ourselves on trying to make our services as user-friendly as possible so that someone doesn't have to use an attorney. But we are blessed in Chicago to have so many wonderful supportive agencies and organizations that provide legal services. So the commission has on its website a list of legal assistance agencies who we can also refer you to if you'd like someone to represent you here or in another venue.
That's so helpful. Thank you. Jennifer, Michael? Yeah.
I would like to suggest, if you have a question as to whether or not you've been a victim of a human rights violation, certainly contact any of these agencies, including the Illinois Department of Human Rights. Speak to an intake person who can discuss your situation and get further information. And just because you feel that you've been discriminated against in one manner, it doesn't mean that, or it may, the conversation with the staff may elicit further potential violations. So again, if there's any question as to whether or not you've been aggrieved, I would suggest reaching out to any of the sister agencies to discuss the matter.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. Yes. Call, email us. We will certainly help and walk through that. I want to note two things. First, on our website, we have a more recent commission guide. So to help with navigating the commission, which discusses some of the jurisdictional questions that someone might have, which hopefully is helpful. That might be a good starting place as well. And then also I would encourage people to file their complaint. A lot of times we do see, the complaint is filed in the wrong place, but our investigators often will reach out as soon as possible to say, hi, this isn't the right place, but you can file here. So I would say never be afraid to also submit the complaint, because we can also provide some guidance there, whether it's a referral to one of the sister agencies, or even if it doesn't fit within kind of these three buckets of our agencies here that we're discussing today, we might provide other referrals to a service that might be able to provide you with some assistance.
Wonderful. Thank you. So if I'm hearing correctly, visit the website, call or email, file a complaint, and the teams at the respective agencies are here to support our communities and direct them appropriately. I love it. Thank you. We're almost just out of time. I think my last question is, any last piece of advice or information you want to share with our viewers today, maybe about other resources that may be available to them, or information that they may not know is out there that they can use or seek? Jennifer, I'll start with you.
Sure. That's a really great question. I mean, there's so much information that's on our website, and I know that it can be hard to navigate. So I would say never hesitate to just call us or email us. We are happy to discuss kind of what issue you're facing. And as I noted, like maybe it doesn't fit within our human rights ordinance or our worker protection laws, or even that of the cities or the states, but we might know of another resource that would be helpful, or another way for you to receive some sort of redress or solution for the issue that you're facing. And so I think I can speak on behalf of all the agencies, as we've noted here, that we're here to support and help. And even for those issues that may not fall squarely within or neatly within the work that we do know of other resources that could be helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Michael or Kristen, anything to add?
Sure, yeah. I'd love the opportunity just to highlight that in addition to our adjudication services, those are the services that we described today, investigating discrimination complaints. The Commission also offers support to hate crime victims. We also mediate community tensions, and we conduct education and outreach. Just a few things to highlight for outreach. I would really encourage you to follow the Commission on Facebook. Go to Facebook and search Chicago Commission on Human Relations. When we have events, we'll often post it there, and we'll share events of our sister agencies and partners. One event in particular that I'm really looking forward to is a partnership we have with the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities coming up. It's a series of three events. It's going to be the same presentation each time, but we'll be presenting at their location at 2102 West Ogden Avenue on September 21st at 10 a.m. And you can register for a one-on-one consultation afterward if it's easier for you to go to that location as opposed to coming to the Commission's office. But I'll remind you that we do have staff available for walk-in intake Monday through Friday between 9 and 3, so you can come to our office. But let's say it's easier for you to get to the location at 2102 West Ogden on September 21st. Visit our Facebook page and register for one of those sessions. Would be happy to either answer your questions, or we'll even be prepared to take complaints on the spot. So really excited for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
And I would also like to recommend people visit our website. It's constantly being updated with new FAQs, frequently asked questions and answers to commonly asked questions. It provides general explanation as to the process that the person may be beginning by filing a complaint with the Illinois Human Rights. But also, I'd also recommend someone simply pick up a phone if they're able to, so that way they can speak to a staff member If they have a general question, we have a counselor of the day. If that's a more specific question, we also have an attorney of the day ready to answer any calls that require the advice, an answer from an attorney.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer, Michael, and Kristen, for just sharing so much information about your respective organizations. Thank you also to our ASL interpreter, Kristen, for providing sign language for us today. And we're here to support you, so please do reach out. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.